even though they agreed with it. You mentioned tax and spend before. What was the trick with the tax and spend? And I think we talked about the drinking age. We also talked about the Newports.
Well, if some of the states had a legal drinking age of 18, and they wanted the federal government tried bribing other states in order to raise it to 21 by giving them a 5% raise in their funding.
Highway funds,
their
right.
Highway funding.
So if they raised the drinking age to 21, they would get 5% extra dollars for free.
Yeah.
Okay, now what was the problem with this? If you were a state, or what was the positive of this if you were the federal government?
Well, the state, you're being forced to do something which would go against the 10th Amendment, where any power not given to the federal government goes to the states.
To the states, that's right. Now, I believe the 10th Amendment was one of the questions from one of the chapters, too. Okay, now having said this, when you look at this, basically what they're saying is you're being forced. You're forcing us to do something in order to get this 5%. This is like bribery. This is like blackmail, maybe in its worst form. Federal government, in the Newport example that I gave you, basically what are they doing? Anybody? They're putting regulation or restriction, and they're basically saying, we will give you this money, but we have the right to put conditions on it, so you have to earn it a little bit in order to do so. What did the Supreme Court say? Now, before we get there, is there a national drinking age today?
No.
There is not a national drinking age today. What did the court say in dealing with the federal government saying it is our right under the tax and spend power to do this?
They upheld it and said that they were giving those states a legitimate choice since they weren't taking money away from them.
Okay.
It was legitimate and that they were just giving them additional funds if they chose to do something.
You're not being blackmailed. You're not being, maybe you're being bribed. You're not being blackmailed. We're not forcing you to do anything. If we said you're going to get X minus 5% tax funds if you don't raise your drinking age, now we're forcing you. But we're saying you're guaranteed X, and if you do this, we're giving you X plus 5%. So if we give you this, now that all of a sudden means you've got a legitimate choice, you're doing something in your interest, perfectly legal to put conditions on money. So that was tax and spend. Full faith and credit jumped over a couple of chapters. What was full faith and credit? Full faith and credit clause. Oh, it's going to be a tough Friday, man.
Any document you get from one state has to be recognized by all the states in full faith that it was given by that one state.
Any document that you get from a state, a legally valid, legally binding document from one state, will be recognized by the other states. And I believe we had talked about 3 or 4 examples of such documents. What were those? Driver's license is a really good one. Now, if you're driving through a state, you don't have to get a new driver's license if you're driving through. If you move there, yeah, you do, but they can recognize your current driver's license just to give you a ticket if you're driving too fast. What was another one?
Marriage certificate.
Marriage certificate. If Raisa gets married 3 or 4 times, but each time that she gets married, when she moves to a different state, you don't have to get remarried there in order for them to recognize that. You're still married wherever you go, unless it's gay marriage. And this is one of the arguments that came up, that maybe gay marriage should be legal, because if Adam and Eve can get married and it's recognized everywhere, Adam and Steve should be able to get recognized or have their marriage recognized anywhere too, because there are some states that do allow gay marriage, although the federal government at this point has not. What was the other provision, speaking of gay marriage, that you could argue could have justified gay marriage? Thinking back from class. Because basically you're dealing with gender discrimination when you think about it. What was the other provision that we talked about that you could argue?
It's one of the amendments.
Was one of the amendments. One of the amendments we've already mentioned here. The Equal Rights Amendment.
Doesn't count even though it's not really an amendment.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a part of the Constitution, but had it been,
Yeah.
then indeed this could have been something, because it was dealing specifically with discrimination based upon sex, if you'll recall, sex or gender, and that's what this would be. The other part of full faith and credit was criminal proceedings, convictions. If you're wanted in one state, you can be extradited back to that state even if they catch you in another state. So this is full faith. And then last one was privileges and immunities. What was privileges and immunities? What we just talked about on Monday.
There's travel abroad, like the right to travel.
Okay.
There's also that's all I really.
Okay, there were
tied
certain.
into-
Go ahead.
It was tied into the guide
Absolutely tied to unemployment. The full faith and credit clause basically says that there are certain rights that you're given. Pardon me, the privileges and immunities clause. There are certain rights that you're given as an American citizen. Things like the right or the ability to petition your government for redress of grievances. The idea that you're free to navigate, to use the navigable waterways in the country. The idea that you have the right to travel in general. And the example that I'd given you in class was the unemployment benefits. Everybody clear on the unemployment benefits? When can you get unemployment benefits if you were to change states? How long do you have to wait?
I don't think we have like a definite answer on
The court said that you could get them on day one, so the South Carolina person could actually move up to Connecticut and get those benefits. And if you remember, when Connecticut tried to cancel that, the court said you're denying them the right to travel, which is under privileges and immunities in the Constitution. So these are some of the provisions that we're talking about. What else do y'all have? Thinking back. And actually, let me, while you're thinking, oh, go ahead. You got
that. I
something?
was just wondering, are you gonna ask us about eminent domain?
That's one of the articles, and I was going to say, why don't we take a quick look at several of these articles? And in fact, let me give you, let's see about a question.
Quick question.
Yes.
Number 7, what factors typically make states more innovative? I found a whole bunch of answers, but I didn't know which ones you actually wanted.
Okay, number 7. Is that chapter 3?
Yeah. It's talking about size, wealth, more efficient bureaucracy, states' level of economic development, and ability of policy entrepreneurs to advance causes.
Bear with me here 1 second. Number 7. Okay, number 7 down here. Yeah, you're right. It says down here, this is on page 58, and it says, political scientist Jack Walker studied the spread of innovations in 88 public policy areas, ranging from corrections to welfare from 1870 to the 1960s. Walker found that larger, wealthier states, whose urban populations are well represented in the state legislature, are likely to innovate and to more rapidly adopt ideas pioneered in other states. New York, Massachusetts, and California consistently scored near the top. Now it also goes on and it says stronger competition between parties. That's one. Professional legislatures and bureaucracies, regional competition, these types of things. So this is bottom of page and top of page 58 in the second column.
So all of those things?
Yeah, some of those
Okay.
things. That's probably going to be hard to put into a test question.
Yeah.
So maybe don't spend too much time on number 7 on that page, but nonetheless, that is where it was. Going to just a test question here. Let's see.
Should I zoom in?
No, that's okay. That's okay. Let's see here. Find a good one. Let's say Pierce was married to 5 women and had 17 children as part of his religious faith. The local rabble-rousing conservative, Ray, notified police of Pierce's moral outrage. Which of the following best describes the legal status of Pierce's polygamy in the United States? Is it A, it is legal to marry whoever you want, as many times as you want, as long as your marriages are between a man and a woman? Is it B, the First Amendment religious protections allow Pierce to marry as many times as he chooses? Is it C, women are considered property of men in marriage and it is illegal to take property, so all of these marriages are legal? D, is it all of these? Or E, is it none of these?
E.
I've got an E. Anybody else? E, I've got another E. Anybody else? A. The answer is E, because if you remember when we talked about original intent of the framers, we said that polygamy was struck down. So with this in mind, all of these say it's legal. Polygamy is illegal, so it's going to knock those off.